protects employees who complain or oppose any form of employment discrimination. There are laws against an employer retaliating or punishing an employee who comes forward. There's a reason why we have anti-retaliation laws, and that's because these experiences can be very emotional. And when somebody gets called out for violating the human rights law, their knee-jerk reaction is to punish, to lash out. Employees should know that there are consequences if they suffer adverse action after they complain, and that they shouldn't fear coming forward if they're being subjected to employment discrimination. So some frequently asked questions about the laws against retaliation would involve: what sort of complaint or opposition does the employee need to engage in? They need to object to or protest something that's unlawful. If they go in and just say, my boss is really unfair, a hard taskmaster, that's not going to be sufficient. The complaint needs to be about something unlawful, something that violates the human rights law. So it would have to be a complaint about age discrimination or pregnancy discrimination, something like that. It doesn't have to be in writing. To make sure that the employer receives it and knows what you're complaining about, something in writing could be helpful, but there's no requirement that there be a written complaint. You don't have to be fired to have a claim for retaliation. You have to suffer some form of adverse employment action. So it could be a transfer to an undesirable shift. It could be a demotion. It could be a cut in pay. We represented a woman who complained about actually a sexual assault in her workplace from her supervisor, and she reported it immediately. The company investigated and told her that she had two options. She could either go back and work with the gentleman who she accused of sexual assault, or she could change shifts to the graveyard shift, where she wouldn't be on a track of promotion, which she had been on before, and she would have a pay cut. So that employee felt quite forced out of the workplace, that the employer really didn't want her to be around. If you make a complaint of employment discrimination, your employer should A, take it very seriously, and B, investigate and look into it. If your employer tries to brush it under the rug, does not investigate, conducts a superficial investigation, or tells you it was unsubstantiated and that they're going to treat it as though it never happened, your next step would be to call an experienced employment lawyer, because those are not adequate responses under the human rights law. Employees tell us that they're afraid, that they fear retaliation, so is it better off just not to say anything at all? And honestly, we don't believe that a strategy of doing nothing is a good one, because typically someone who has a bias against that age group or that gender or that nationality isn't just going to wake up one day and sort of lose that bias. If it's there, it's going to be there. And if nothing's being done, that person typically feels empowered, and sometimes the conduct can become more extreme and more severe. If what I've described in this video sounds like something you're experiencing, speak to an experienced employment lawyer. An experienced employment lawyer can help you resolve the issues that you're facing in the workplace and help you move forward.